You've probably heard of the Falklands War in 1982, but what about the Battle of the Falkland Islands during the First World War? You have to admit, the South Atlantic is a long way from the mud and barbed wire of the Western Front. So what on earth was this all about? Well, basically it was a major naval battle between a German raiding squadron and the Royal Navy in 1914. During the early stages of the First World War, the German Navy's East Asia Squadron was trying to sail back to Germany from China. Why? Well, because in that imperial age, Germany had an empire in the Far East. They had a treaty port in China, Qingdao, as well as a number of islands in the Pacific Ocean, including Western Samoa, the northern half of modern-day Papua New Guinea, some of the Solomon Islands, the Marshall Islands. Anyway, with the outbreak of the First World War in August 1914, the Germans realised there was no way they could hold on to these colonies in the face of superior British and Japanese threats. The German East Asia Naval Squadron under Admiral Graf Maximillian von Spee decided to make an audacious run halfway round the world back to Germany. God, there's a film in this, isn't there? Yeah, his squadron consisted of 2 armoured cruisers, the Scharnhorst and the Gneisenau, 3 light cruisers, the Numbard, the Dresden, the Leipzig, and 3 coal supply ships to supply them with coal, because obviously these were coal-fired steamships in those days. Whilst they made their way across the Pacific, another member of the East Asia Squadron, a light cruiser called the Emden, set out on a lone wolf mission, raiding Allied shipping and ports in the Indian Ocean, including bombarding the Malaysian port of Penang, which is part of the British Empire, and also the Indian port of Madras, again also part of the British Empire. She was finally brought to bay by the Australian cruiser HMAS Sydney off the Cocos Islands in the Indian Ocean in November 1914 and destroyed there. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Pacific, a small British task force had tried to intercept von Spee's squadron off the coast of Chile on the 1st of November, and in the ensuing Battle of Coronel, the Germans had sunk 2 British cruisers, HMS Monmouth and HMS Good Hope, with the loss of 1,600 sailors. The public and the government back in Britain were flabbergasted. This was the greatest loss suffered by the Royal Navy since the Battle of Trafalgar over 100 years before. You know, this was Britannia, mistress of the seas, and she wasn't holding the seas. So in great secrecy, 2 British battleships, HMS Invincible and HMS Inflexible, set sail from Devonport, England, under the command of Vice Admiral Sturdy. Charles Doveton Sturdy was the son of a Royal Navy captain and had entered the service as a cadet back in the 1870s. His 2 battleships rendezvoused with the rest of their squadron, the armoured cruisers HMS Carnarvon, Cornwall and Kent, and the light cruisers HMS Bristol and HMS Glasgow, which had happened to be a survivor from that battle off Chile, and also an armed merchant cruiser, HMS Macedonia. Having resupplied in neutral Chile, von Spee headed round the Cape Horn and into the South Atlantic. For reasons never really understood, not least by some of his captains, he then decided to launch a raid on the British coal supply base at Port Stanley in the Falkland Islands. I say for reasons unknown because actually he had resupplied with coal in Chile. The German raiding party arrived off the British colony on the 8th of December, only to find that the British squadron had arrived under Sturdy, had arrived in Port Stanley the very day beforehand to take on board the very coal supplies that von Spee had his eyes on. Outnumbered and outgunned, von Spee ordered a hasty retreat. But at 10 a.m. on the 8th of December, the British fleet left Stanley in pursuit of the Germans, who were now about 15 miles away. Chasing down von Spee's fleet, the Royal Naval Squadron opened fire at about 1 p.m. And the Germans realised they couldn't outrun this British force, and about 20 minutes later, just before 1:30 in the afternoon, they turned and to make a fight of it. In the ensuing battle, 8 out of the 10 German ships were sunk. Von Spee's flagship, the Scharnhorst, sank with all hands on board, including the Admiral himself. By the end of the battle, nearly 1,900 German sailors had been killed, mainly on the Scharnhorst, and a further 215 had been captured, principally from the survivors of the Scharnhorst sister ship, the Gneisenau. The British lost just 10 men killed and 19 wounded in this battle. Not a single Royal Navy vessel was sunk. The Battle of the Falkland Islands put paid to the German efforts to challenge the Royal Navy's grip on the high seas and restored the Royal Navy's honour after that rather embarrassing defeat off the coast of Chile a month beforehand. Vice Admiral Sturdy was to go on and see action at the Battle of Jutland in 1916, the greatest naval battle during the First World War, and he retired in 1921 as an Admiral of the Fleet, the highest rank in the Royal Navy. In 2019, the wreck of the Scharnhorst was finally located on the sea floor, about 113 miles southeast of Port Stanley. If you remember, the British sunk 8 out of the 10 German ships, but 2 got away, including the German destroyer, the Dresden. The Dresden retraced her steps into the Pacific and was finally cornered by the British in the Pacific and sunk in 1915. As an interesting aside, one of the officers of the Dresden was Wilhelm Canaris, who, those of you who know your Second World War history will know, went on to become the head of German military intelligence, the Abwehr, in World War II. Isn't it amazing just how that golden thread of history keeps weaving? Well, I hope you enjoyed that little snippet of British history, and if you did, give me a like, subscribe to the channel, and indeed have a look around the channel, see what other videos you enjoy watching. Until we meet again, keep safe, and I'll see you very soon.